Today, I have the pleasure of welcoming Dr. Wendy O'Connor. She is a Stanford trained positive psychologist and success coach for female entrepreneurs. Dr. Wendy helps women design their most meaningful, intentional, and fulfilling lives and businesses. Dr. Wendy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Lauren. I'm really excited to be
Uh,
here.
It's such an honor. I've really been looking forward to our conversation. You speak my language, and I'm so excited to dive in.
Me too. Let's go.
Let's do it. So, for those who aren't familiar, what is positive psychology?
Great question. So, the simplest way to talk about positive psychology is just to understand it as the science of happiness, what it means to truly flourish, to live your best, happiest life. And I got into positive psychology a number of years ago now when I was going through a major transition in my own life. I went from mom of zero to mom of three, and I had three kiddos under two, and life just suddenly felt so different. Like, I've always been a happy person. I've always loved life. I've always been excited about life. And then all of a sudden, I find myself with these three babies in diapers, and I'm like, oh my goodness, life feels so different. I'm not thriving the way I used to. What's going on? And I went through this whole just internal journey about what does it really take for a woman in particular to not just survive her life and be functioning in her life, but to actually thrive in her life. And that's how I got into positive psychology. When I came across this science to happiness, I'm like, I can't believe there's a science of happiness. That's so incredible.
Right? Looking at the science behind it, I now am studying for a master's in psychology. So, and also I'm very optimistic and positive and so interested in all the ways that we can add more happiness and vibrancy to our lives. And I just can't imagine looking and envisioning you with, what was it, three babies under two?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm
Yeah.
so excited to learn more about how you've implemented this to uplift your life and the lives of others. So, how exactly does positive psychology teach us to live happier lives?
So there's some pieces to positive psychology that make it really simple. And I always say, like, these ideas are really simple in theory. And of course, they're trickier to implement in practice because life, because busyness, because work, because families, all the things. But the idea behind what truly makes us feel and live as our happiest selves, it can be broken down into a number of concepts. The first, there's a model to it, which makes it so easy to remember. It's called the PERMA model of flourishing. So I'm going to add a V at the end because there is a version of this model that has the sixth component, and I love this sixth component. So I'll share with you these six features of what it takes to really live a happy life. And what I want your listeners to think of when they're hearing this is not like, oh my gosh, there's six things I need to dive into in my life to be happier. It's really just what's behind these six concepts is the intentionality of your decision making, the intentionality of how you spend time, where you set boundaries, what you invest in, what you don't, what you say no to. All of that really matters so much. But if you're looking for a place to start, one of these six places is excellent. So P stands for positive emotions. How are you doing with your emotions? Are you typically feeling more positive? Do you have enough regular positive emotional experiences? And when we think about positive emotions, it's not like I'm happy every day. I'm so excited. My life is amazing. It's even emotions like curiosity or gratitude or enthusiastic or hopeful. Those are positive emotions. So if you have those regularly, you're already like off to the races. The second component is E. E stands for engagement. Now, this is one that I found with a lot of women that I've worked with. E is a trickier one because what E stands for in terms of engagement is what do you do in your life where you truly can lose track of time? You love it for the sake of loving it. You do it for the sake of doing it. You lose track of yourself. You're just in that flow state. And there's a lot of women that come into my world that are like, oh, like so much of my life feels very rote and prescribed and methodical, that there really isn't this opportunity to lose myself, like in creativity or in reading or in a really incredible heartfelt conversation with a girlfriend or in art or music. So there's an eye-opening experience I've seen for a lot of women that are like, oh, right, engagement, losing myself. Like, who has time to lose themselves? That's what I'll hear women say. And it's like, well, then we're not really structuring our time well. If we
Mhm.
don't have time to truly lose ourselves in something meaningful to us, we're going to feel that ripple effect in our lives. So that's engagement.
Mhm.
R stands for relationships. So this feels like a very obvious one. How your relationships feel to you. Are they loving, trusting, reciprocal? Do they have depth and intimacy? How are those affecting your life? Those make a really big difference in our overall happiness score. So this is where I tell women to really give yourselves permission to kind of take an audit of your relationships. Like, which ones are you loving? Which ones add value to your life? Which ones are obligatory? Which ones feel like a burden? And start to tip the scale. Start to really identify the ones you want to invest more in and do that. And also give yourself equal permission to pull it back in the relationships that really are not serving you right now. So that's a big, we can have 6 different podcast episodes on each of these. But just for like this high level, thought process around where can we start with happiness. M stands for meaning. So does life feel meaningful to you? If you were to look back on the last 5 years, would you say like this feels really my life feels really meaningful? This is important to all of us, truly. So it's a nice opportunity to check in with yourself about meaning. And if life's not feeling so meaningful, this could be a space to invest a little bit more energy. A is accomplishment or achievement. So, and this is where again a lot of my high achieving success driven women get caught up because they say, well, I haven't done anything with my life yet, or I haven't become the CEO of something, I haven't written 10 best-selling books, I haven't ran a marathon. And our brain goes to all these things we haven't yet done. But achievement can really be like very proportionate to what your life is. And so don't overthink your achievements, but knowing that you feel connected to accomplishment, that's going to be an important indicator of your happiness. And then V is vitality. So vitality, really feeling truly alive and healthy and well, not only in your body, but in your mind is really impactful. So those are the 6 guys you could start with. And obviously like they touch all parts of our lives. So it's like, pick your own adventure.
Yeah, I love that. Being in, taking inventory of all the different pieces and starting to be intentional about the design of your life. And so I wanted to talk to you about this, going from therapist to coach, you talk about living a life by design rather than by default. How can someone start doing this?
I'm obsessed with this. Like,
Yeah.
it's literally my favorite thing that I talk about. And so I get all excited and I'm like, Lauren, I could be here all day with you, Lauren. So just cut me off. But this idea came from when I was going through this period of being a new mom and felt like I was languishing more, like I was going through the motions and checking the boxes and surviving the days and feeling fine, like so much to be grateful for. Life's not that bad. I really don't need to be complaining, but feeling like something's missing, like this is not my full potential or this doesn't feel like an optimized life experience. And so when I started to integrate some of these concepts from positive psychology and I started to get myself to a place of, hold on a second, I actually have influence on my day. Hold on a second, I have influence on how I experience this moment. It's not just I wake up today and I hope it's a good day or I hope nothing bad happens, which is how a lot of people live on default. It's really this incredible, and I found it to be incredibly empowering realization that we have a lot of power and say over the experience we have of our life. And
Yeah.
so as soon as I was like, oh my gosh, this is it, this is the thing, this is what just lights me up to talk about. It's this idea that we go from default to design, and living a life by design, the way that I teach it, preach it, coach it, is coming down to these 3 pieces of what I call your North Star. Living a life by design means that you're taking things that are really matter to you, called your values. You're taking the things you really want, which a lot of women don't even know what they want. They don't check in with themselves about their desires. But you take your values, you take your deep desires, and then you pair them with the best parts of your personality, the best parts of you, which are your signature strengths. And these together make life so much easier to live intentionally. When you know who you are and you allow her to live fully, when you know what you want, you know what matters to you, and then all of a sudden your decisions, your opportunities, your yeses, your nos, all get to come through this filter of
Mhm.
your North Star or your inner compass. And it just allows just the byproduct of those decisions makes life so much more intentional and deliberate. We say
Mhm.
yes to the things that align with those three pieces. We say no to the things that do not.
Mhm.
And that's how we start. Like, that's how we get the ball rolling.
Yeah, develop that vision, start taking action, get in the driver's seat of your story as opposed to being just a passive bystander and letting things happen. We do have so much more, I think, and believe control in shaping our future than we may realize.
100%. And there's a lot of times I will see women who struggle with the vision part. Creating the vision, it just feels like this fantasy. Like, I don't even know. Like, I hardly know what I want for dinner. What do you mean? Like, what do I want in the next 5 years of my life? The vision can be tricky for some. For some of us, we are crystal clear. Since I think I was like 7 years old, I was like, I want a massage therapist in my house and a sushi chef. And I was like, that's the dream. I was crystal clear from a very young age. And I still don't have either in my
Mm,
house. So I got to get back to
they're
that.
coming.
They're coming. They're coming. I had an amazing massage therapist who would come to the house every month, and it was my favorite. And then he was like, "This is killing my back. I have to stop." And I was like, "No, no." So yeah, so I was somebody, and I feel like I've often, in many seasons of life, felt clarity around what I want. That hasn't felt difficult, but it does for a lot of women because there's so much disconnect that happens over
Yeah.
the conditioned life experience.
Mhm.
We follow this prescribed path. That prescribed path disconnects us from our authenticity. Disconnecting from authenticity makes it harder to picture something different than what we're living.
Yeah.
So if you're someone who's struggling a bit with this idea of like picture it and go get it, which you and I believe in firmly, but if you're struggling with the picture it, then just start to focus on the go get something, like go move forward. And that's where I think this really North Star comes in handy, because you don't have to actually know yet the desire piece. You can hone in on what your personality is about. You can hone in on what is important to
Mhm.
you and use those two
Mhm.
as enough information to then develop the third over time. But
Yeah.
that vision may take a little bit of time to connect to.
Mhm. Mhm. Start doing the little things you feel called to and giving yourself permission to start taking small steps.
Yeah. And to say no to everything that doesn't feel right for you. This is a
Mhm.
big one for women in particular. It's like we keep saying yes. It's almost like there's this honor that we feel like of being asked. I have a girlfriend who just cracks up because she's requested me to help with something. I forget if it was volunteering or something through school or Girl Scouts or something. And she literally didn't get through her sentence. She's like, "Hey, would you be interested?" I said, "Nope." She's like,
Yeah.
"Finish this." Like, you don't need to. But no,
Mhm.
lovingly, respectfully,
Yeah.
no, because there is this pull that women have to be helpful and to be of service and to be a good girl and to, not be rejected or to be judged. And so the answer is then yes. But every yes we say to other people comes at some type of cost to ourselves. Now, it could be a cost that's well worth it and it feels like a complete value add, even if there's some type of cost involved. But many of our yeses really should be no's. And
Yeah.
getting ourselves, all of us, to this place where that feels clearer
Mhm.
frees up so much time and energy that you can be doing so many other things with that time. It's just we have to get over the hump of the discomfort of letting people down.
Yeah, I mean, the power that comes with saying no. And I feel like with each heartfelt no, you'll start to build so much more confidence in yourself.
Yeah, you'll trust yourself.
Mm.
Like, I trust myself to have a yes or a no. And I don't have to just say yes because that's my default anymore. You get to bring intentionality there. It's so powerful.
In regard to female entrepreneurs, if you see the problem as women following the wrong roadmap, how do they get on the right one and what is it?
So we start with the North Star. We start with desires, strengths, and values. And then from there, like everything kind of comes together in a puzzle. So as entrepreneurial women, I work with a lot of high achieving, success driven women. They're the women who want it all. They want balance and inner peace. They want presence in their life, but they also want freedom. They want fortune. They want the wealth. They want an incredible lifestyle. And so there's a commonality among the women that come into my space, and the way that I work with them on this is once we get through that foundation, the foundation of knowing who you are and what you want, Now it just comes to refinement. It comes to practicing, it comes to experimenting, it comes to exploring our options and seeing what fits right. A lot of the women in my world are starting or growing their businesses. And when they're doing this, there's a lot of confusion. I don't know which way to go. I don't know what to put out there. I don't know who's going to want to work with me. I don't know even how to talk to them or how to go on camera or whatever these details are. None of that can be mastered without action, without taking some messy, nervous action. And so much of the journey is just having a safe space to take some messy action and to figure it out as you go. One of the biggest mistakes I see women make when it comes to wanting to live into this dream is that they think they need to have it all figured out before they move. And it just doesn't work that way. There's no world where it works that way. And so the only way for you to be successful to the level that you desire to is to move forward, regardless of your self-belief, regardless of your 20 affirmations every morning, regardless of what yesterday's evidence of results are. It's like this constant reminder that it's moving forward. That's what it is every day, regardless of everything outside of you. And that's a tough pill to swallow for some perfectionists, but also just for all of us. Our brains are wired for safety. So our brain's not going to be like, yes, get out there and do it messy. Like, who cares? We care. It matters. And so it feels like a big deal.
Yeah, there's only so much planning that you can do. The real learning is in the actual doing the thing.
Absolutely.
And so much of the work that we do is on mindset and getting these women or individuals to take action on their goals and to take that first step. Often we can find ourselves in these negative thought loop spirals. So I'm curious what strategies you recommend for overcoming negative self-talk or overly critical inner voices that may be holding us back.
Yeah, this is where you need a new track to follow. So I think about, we have to remember, first of all, our brain secretes so many thoughts a day, like up to 60,000 thoughts a day. Your brain's constantly sorting through. So there are more thoughts than you can even access consciously happening behind the scenes. Over 90% of those thoughts are completely repetitive. So if you tend to have these thoughts that are like, what if I fail, or I'm not good enough, or something's not going to work out right, or I'm going to embarrass myself, or they're going to judge me, you're going to have those thoughts day in and day out habitually. And a lot of times what happens is we think that those thoughts have truth to them, and that's why they're showing up repetitively and powerfully in our minds. But they're just showing up because they're what you thought yesterday and what you thought the last 10 years and 20 years of your life. And so here they are again. Like, they're just doing their job of repeating themselves over and over again. So one of the biggest things that we can do to really shift our mindset is to start realizing that we can actually pave a new path. We can actually create, I picture it like a train. This train is a very automatic train that goes around the circle all the time. And if you realize that this is just the habit of your mindset, we can create a new train track. And yes, it's going to be laid by you, track by track by track by track. And so it's going to feel very, a lot of times women will say, like, it feels like so, like almost like robotic, it's so manual. And it is so manual because you're literally going to be saying, okay, here are the 10 top thoughts that my brain spits out. These top 10 thoughts typically hold me back or stop me from living my dream life, or tell me that I'm not going to do it right. So I just like avoid or procrastinate. And so I'm going to take 10 different thoughts and I'm going to implant them into my mindset, not like literally very simply by saying, all right, when I think this, I'm going to replace that thought with this. So an easy exercise to do is to write down your 5 or 10 top thoughts that you notice have the biggest impact on your inaction or procrastination or self-doubt, and to replace each one of those with an alternative. Now, I say alternative and I don't say like the opposite or something incredibly positive, because that's actually not so powerful. What's powerful is something that you could imagine being true. So if it's just like, okay, what if I fail? We can replace that with a question, but what if it works? What if I succeed? What if it's amazing? Or I'm not good enough with like, I've done a ton of amazing things in my life. there's no reason I can't do more. Like, let's see how it goes. So it doesn't have to be this, like, I'm the most incredible human, everything's perfect and going to be amazing in my life no matter what. It's really this shift away from the habitual fear.
Mhm.
And instead imagining that each of those thoughts, if they exist on their own, there's no reason there can't be an alternative to each one of them. Now, I will say this, mindset's incredibly important. And there's absolutely these tweaks and refinements that can unlock a limitation very quickly. But at the end of the day, whether or not you choose to move forward, regardless of your mindset, is where you're going to see change in your life.
Mhm.
You don't actually have to have the mindset to carry you through action. You can take action first, and the mindset can catch up and follow.
The decision to look at how you're thinking and attempt to think differently. And so I want our listeners to understand the power of choice. And I've heard you share a statistic about this. And so I'm going to ask you this question is, how much do our life choices influence our happiness compared to our genetics and external events?
Oh my gosh, I love this question. I feel like I haven't revisited these statistics in a while. Let me think. I believe what is true is that it's like 40% our power, like 40% up to choice. There's genetics in there, there's life circumstance in there, but if I'm remembering statistics I've shared some time in the past, it's like 40%.
Yeah.
It's like 40 to 50% depending. So this
Mhm.
idea that so many of us go through life assuming life's happening to us is completely false. This idea that you could have like a 40% and we could think about it this way, you could even have like a 40% improvement in just being aware and intentionality in your life by making different decisions that are going to have this incredible ripple effect in the direction of your choice. So
Mhm.
I remember the statistic. I love this statistic. And if I remember correctly, is it
Yeah,
40%?
I believe it was 40 to 50%. And it just blew me away because the power of choice and to, again, be intentional, take control, and start making some choices in your life that are in line with where you want to go. And whether that's as small as spending time just to think about where you want to go, you may not know yet.
No, but one thing that's easier to identify, and this is actually a trick that will help your listeners too. You may not have the full vision. You may not know exactly what the deepest, biggest desires are for your next level. But one thing that you can do to tap into intentionality and your power of choice every single day is the first thing you do when you wake up. It's not grab your phone. It's not check your email. It's not think of the worry and to-do list of the day. It can be as simple as asking yourself this question: how do I want to feel today? How do I want to feel today? Just ask yourself that question every morning. You will get better and better at asking that question because you'll have different ideas that come to mind. Like, today I want to feel present with my family. Okay, amazing. Today I want to feel productive. Today I want to feel happy. Today I want to feel hopeful. You pick. You get to decide this morning before the world greets you. You get to decide how you are setting the tone for the day. Simple question, very powerful impact. And here's why. When you ask yourself how you want to feel and you name that emotion, then the next thing your brain does in response is like, oh, how do we get there? Your brain wants to solve these questions, issues, problems. And so when you're like, I want to feel present today with my family, the next question you can ask yourself is, okay, what's one thing that gives me the best chance to be present today? When my girls get off the bus and they walk through the door, my phone's going to be plugged in upstairs in my bedroom, and I'm going to be downstairs in the kitchen with them doing snacks and homework. That was like the easiest way that I just decided how I want to feel today. And I chose one very doable, very unintimidating action to follow through on. Now I get to say at 4:30 or 5 o'clock, like, I did it. I
Yeah.
did it. I said I want to feel present. I chose this one thing. I kept my word and I feel so freaking good. Like, I'm the best mom in the whole world now. So
Yeah.
every day, if we do this and we're just like, I want to feel productive. Okay, what's one thing today that would allow me to feel that emotion of feeling productive? Oh, I just need to finish these two things on this section of my to-do list or whatever. Amazing. So it breaks it down from this kind of abstract concept. A lot of people are talking about creating your dream life and manifestation and, just like picture it and it'll happen. And it's very overwhelming to people. And so a lot of people just check out. They're like, forget it. I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm not going to meditate for 10 hours a day. And I'm not going to like write affirmations on my bathroom mirror. But what can I do that's real and going to make an impact in a very potent way? Ask yourself those two questions every morning, and you've completely now like set the tone for and taken the lead of your life.
I love that question. How do I want to feel today? One of the things that I started doing is my phone goes on airplane mode from around 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. and it sleeps in the kitchen. And so I bookend my days where I start and end my days with intention. And, it's reading and winding down in the evening and waking up again. How do I want to feel today? Thank you. And doing my meditation. But it's created so much more space in my mind and has enabled me to be so much more effective during work time because I'm starting and ending my days with intention.
Yeah, and the way I like to think about it is like you're ending the days with intention and you're ending them on your terms. Like how much of your life do you really feel is completely up to you? Like not a ton. And we have influence, we have choice, but we don't feel like we're having a lot of choice in our lives. So if you can even just carve out time at the beginning and end of the day to live life on your terms, it feels really powerful. Like this morning, there's many mornings I've been getting up for the 5:30 or 6:15 class at the gym. This is a new thing. Okay. So I'm not that person who's like, I love working out. It's this idea that now that it's lighter earlier, I'm like, oh, let's like seize the day. It's lighter. I can get up. It's not as difficult. Fine. So there are the days that I feel like are for like those power moves. But then there's the days like this morning where it's raining and dark and I skipped the gym and lit a candle and read in bed and snuggled the babies and was like, oh my goodness, like I just created what I wanted to feel today and didn't feel guilty. I didn't go to the gym, didn't feel like I messed up, didn't feel like I did anything wrong. And so this idea also, I think of flexibility is really important. Like how you want to end the day tonight may be very different than how you feel like on another night. And the idea that we get to make those decisions in the moment, it makes it more fun. And there's like a free energy around it. So I actually have a question, if I can ask you about your intentional evenings.
Please.
I've been wanting to create, especially for June, I'm going through this really fun, like mid-year quantum leap transformation before the second half of the year. And one of the things I want to lean into is curating an evening that feels really great. And I've gone through different seasons of this, but I love hearing people's ideas. So as you plug in your phone and you switch gears to wind down, is it always reading? What do you typically do? What feels like a meaningful evening for you? What do you really look forward to?
So I'm going to run you through the whole routine.
Yes.
So once we put the phone to bed in the kitchen, walk into the room, dim the lights a little bit, light my favorite Baze candle from Diptyque, go take a warm shower, do my skincare routine. Then I get in bed, do some reading, and I pull out my gratitude journal, at least 5 things that I'm grateful for that happened that day. Maybe also write about some things that are on my mind that I need to release or ask for help clarifying. I'll write in the journal. And then I do some light therapy, some blue and red light therapy. And by that time, I'm normally passed out. Just from that routine is so relaxing to me without the phone in my room, safe space, running through all those little steps.
I love this. So with the red and blue light therapy, how do you do this? Is it one of those funny masks that people wear?
Yes. So I have the Dr. Dennis Gross funny mask, but I recently got, and I'm blanking on the name so that I don't have to wear a mask. It's this thing and it has like a stand. And so I can lay on my back and it's above my face. I'll link this in the show notes and I'll send it to you. I can't think of the company who makes it, but it's been amazing for my skin and it helps me fall asleep every night. I also have a sound machine. So kind of like, the sound and under that light, I normally fall asleep by the time it's over.
And are you usually reading like for pleasure, like fiction? Are you reading personal growth stuff? Because I
It's
like to
all,
do.
I am like personal development junkie. It's all like self improvement. And autobiographies as well. Like, how has this person created? How have they brought their dream to life? What was their story? How'd they get there? And I just so love how all of these authors, speakers, entrepreneurs, or whomever is writing a book that they really want to share their message to help others get to where they've gotten or inspire them to do what they've done.
Yeah, I found that those books get me so excited too. They're always my preference. Like it's always been
Yeah.
harder for me to get into fiction. But what I
Mhm.
realized is when I'm reading those growth books at night, I get so excited and activated. I get all these ideas. And then I'm like, oh, I'm too awake. So now I
Right.
up. So now like
Yeah.
personal growth books and personal and professional development in the morning, and then the fiction kind of more chill stuff in the
Yeah.
evening. And that actually helped me because I just get too activated. I want to like get out there and change the world. And I'm like, no, it's time for bed.
Listen, this happened to me the other night because I'm now reading this High Performance Habits by Brendan Bouchard. And one of my favorite quotes that I highlighted was, high performers imagine a positive version of themselves in the future, and then they actively engage in trying to be that today.
Yes. Let's talk about collapsing time, right? It's not like waiting to hope that life changes so I'm suddenly that person in 10 years. It's like, no, actually just embody her now
Yeah.
and we get to collapse time.
Mhm.
I love that.
That shorten the timeline. Why does it have to be in 5 years or 10 years?
That's right.
Yeah.
100%.
So I want to touch on toxic positivity because there are people who can perhaps look at us and be like, okay, you guys are so optimistic. And it's also important to find a balance between feeling all of our emotions and choosing to see things with a positive light. So for those who are like, oh, woo woo, positive psychology, like how do we explain kind of our stance while at the same time being like, no, it's important to also feel your feelings?
I think that the simplest way that comes to mind is just to remember that optimism isn't toxic. Dismissing the negative is. It's just that simple. Like embracing a positive mindset, looking for opportunities to think more positively, more hopefully, more powerfully in your life isn't toxic, but dismissing the reality of a negative experience, a negative reaction, a negative emotion, that is. So
Yeah.
that's where I think people get confused. And I think that my husband's a pessimist. He says a realist. He's a pessimist. I'm an optimist. So we have this conversation. So it would be so easy for him to be like, see, like toxic positivity. I'm like, no, no, no. That's not what it is. It's not just adopting positivity in your life, in your habits, in your mindset is toxic. The toxic element to it is dismissing the reality of those of us going through hard moments or times. Like we all have a range of emotions. I cry, I'm sad, I'm irritated every day. Like there's moments of all expression of emotional experiences. And it's not this idea that, oh, just like brush it off. I just saw a reel that just killed me. It was so funny. It was a mom her kids were coming home for summer break. And in this reel, she was just like, she had like some like rhyme she was going after. And she was just like, don't kill him. Like, don't kill him. Don't kill. And it was like, everything's great. Everything's going to be great. And I was like, no, no, no. I was thinking, my reaction was like, no, 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 you might want to. Like, you might have that desire to be like, to shut it all down because it sucks in the moments that are hard. And that's totally fine. And I think a lot of times it comes into, for some reason, like motherhood's coming to mind a lot in this, because I think that there's a lot of pressure moms put on themselves that I'm not just going to be this like amazing businesswoman and wife and friend, but I'm going to be the perfect mother. And that means I don't shout and I don't get angry and I don't, like just feel frustration with my family. And the reality is like, that's not true at all. So thankfully, toxic positivity seemed to have like, at least in my experience of it, like reached its height a couple years ago. I'm like, we did the COVID toxic positivity thing. And now it's like, no, there's just reality.
Yeah.
We have all the feelings. They're all invited to the table. They're all normal and welcome. There's no feeling that's unwelcome or scary or bad or good. They're all there. It's just this idea that where we have choice to interpret something in our lives differently, and that interpretation leads us to suffer less, why not?
Why not?
Sign me up. Like,
Yeah.
why not? Because it helps us get, the more emotionally intelligent we get, the less things like this knock us out. So something that could happen, you get an email, you have a dynamic with a friend, something that would typically knock you out for like days because you're ruminating on it, you're so stuck on it, you're replaying it, and you're getting yourself all worked up. When we realize we can actually go back to the drawing board, we can choose a different story or interpretation or meaning about that very same situation of the facts, And then we get to save ourselves days or hours of suffering and torture and creating more drama in our minds or in our bodies or our lives. Like, that's what is so powerful about this work. It's
Mhm.
not that you just get rid of the negative. That will always be part of life.
Yeah. I'm hooked on this concept of good or bad. We
Mm.
as humans are hardwired to define an experience and stick with that definition. And I think like when you have a challenging time or something hurt you and you're feeling all these emotions, take that as information, not as trying to label it as like good or bad, but information. And then you can choose kind of how you decide to interpret and feel about it.
Yeah, it's it's interesting because we think about why we learned to categorize things so all or nothing. And we think about the way we teach our children, right? Like, don't touch the hot stove, like that's bad, like put your clothes away, that's good. We teach this in the language we use, the way we respond to, the way we guide, the way we coach those in our lives. We use the language of like this, that's good, that's bad, that's right, that's wrong. And so it's very easy for our brain to just think this is the simplest way to make sense of my world. And the world doesn't exist in the extremes, truly. Our daily experience is all like the nuances of our life. And those nuances need to be looked at very independently of one another because context matters always.
Mhm. Context always matters. And so often we're showing up to this unique situation, bringing in with us all of our past experiences, and they're causing us to see it in a different light. And so I think to try and let each moment and situation be new.
Yeah, and that's a tough one for a lot of people, right? I mean, like on the one hand, it's what helps us feel more informed when we're making decisions moving forward is like, oh, I've been burned by that 10 times. I know not to go forward with that same decision. But a lot of times I think we take what we call in the cognitive distortion, cognitive behavioral therapy world as an overgeneralization. It's very easy to take an instance and then overgeneralize it and assume that it means like the alls, like it'll happen again, it'll only happen this way.
Yeah.
But if you were to imagine a world, and this is something that I talk about every day with my clients, that if you were to imagine a world that today's truly a new day, you can wake up today and nothing that happened yesterday or the entire year so far or your entire life so far matter today. What would you give yourself permission to do and live if none of it existed? And this is not a reality that anyone truly, like most people don't live in, but most people don't even contemplate. But imagine if you were to wake up and you're just like, ooh, a little Dory never hurt you. You're like, it's a new day. Like, what am I going to create today? Who do I want to be today? What do I want to stand for today? Be about? How do I want to feel? Like, it's just a very exciting place to live. This idea that I don't have to keep bringing my yesterdays into today and tomorrow.
Mhm. I love that. Who do I want to be today? How do I want to feel today? So powerful. Dr. Wendy, what's next for you?
More,
More.
more. It's
What?
more. It's just more. There is no like, this is the 5-year plan, 10-year plan. It's all more because every day, the way I've designed my business is the way I love to design my life. It's like, I wake up one day and I'm like, ooh, this is a really exciting thing I want to create for my clients. Boom, there's like an offer on the table that's super fun and innovative and exciting. But I wouldn't have thought of it yesterday. So I couldn't predict yesterday what I was going to feel or want today. So I really do live in this place of the balance between there's foundational concepts that keep us sustainably happy and successful. But there's also these really fun, and COVID, I coined it as like mini joys. There are these mini joys and mini opportunities to tap into creativity and innovation and fun. And so for me, like this next season is just like, it's just to the moon.
Yeah.
It's just more. Let's go.
Next level. Let's go. Is there anything you'd like to leave our listeners with today?
1,000,000,000 more things. So, but if you were to just funnel it
Yeah.
into a nugget, it's like, please, wherever you are in your life today, whatever you're going through in your life today, whatever dreams you haven't lived into or don't even realize are your dreams and desires, it's like just give yourself the permission to make the choices that truly connect with who you are and what you want in those moments and in our day-to-day life. Like let yourself all of a sudden just pop the lid off and see what comes and play and have more fun and try not to take something so seriously, because it's just draining your battery, draining your spirit, draining your zest. And in my opinion, life is really meant to be seized and savored. So like, let's do it. That is that is hard to wrap up into one nugget, but that is what I want to end with.
I love it. We all need more play in our lives. Where can we find you?
I love to hang out on Instagram. So come say hi at Dr. Wendy O'Connor. Pop into the DMs, introduce yourself. I love meeting you guys. And of course, if any of your listeners could use any support from me, I'd be honored to help in any way I can.
Well, Dr. Wendy, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you, Lauren. It was great.